ETH Paints.
Hey folks, welcome to another 3D printing Patreon preview. Today, I have the most recent releases from the top 125 3D printing Patreon campaigns, as well as an additional 30 in the lightning round at the end. Quick content warning. As usual, some of the images in this video contain pinup style models, and if you were wondering why that needs a content warning, I've included a link in the description to a video I did talking about it. Here are a couple Elven Assassins by Clay Demon Miniatures. A Breath of Freedom and Daughters of Anarchy, Demonology by Warblades Miniatures. Heroes and Beasts has a Chamber of Horrors for you. We've got Western-looking folk from Gangfight Games this month. Here are some Were and Vampire folk from Village's Hope Miniatures. Here are some anime Adeptus Sororitas figurines with some alternate heads by Minigame Miniatures. Art of Mike has police and punks facing off against each other. Mojibake has Ol Nick Coot Jolly's Workshop for December. We have Penguin Folk, a Seal Dragon, and a Toilet Mimic from Jamie Corte. Cult of Pickle has the Dracopyre clan this month. A Sleepwalker, Blubbertusk, and Grotto Birds from Deathhaven. Dali Dungeon and Intorni makes really great modular buildings. I'm from Polygrim this December. Red Nebular has quite a few different modular Sci-Fi kits available this month. Here are some new minis from Oyvind TK 3D Miniatures. Thunderchrome is working on a great big Grim Dark Palace. This is an Umbral Haruspex with many options from Crucible of Games. Here's an M40 GMC and a Soarer RR7 from Panzer Printer. Check out these work-in-progress pics for a Pit Fiend by Epic Adventure Miniatures. Maddox Historical has French soldiers suitable for the 7 Years' War and French Indian War. Giants, Ogres, Knights, and a Shaman from Magori Miniatures. Have you seen this cute little owlbear's mommy? Because if you have, you should probably run. By Clinch. 2 Gargoyle Studio has Modular Vampiric Cavalry this month. This is a Dark Elf Overlord and a Headhuntress from Imperatum Art. Here's an African Cheetah from Labradorite Wolf. New models from Ilhadiel include an elf hero riding a dragon, dragon cavalry on horses, an ancient dragon with rider, and a dragon breath cannon. From Maddox, we have a bunch of troopers in what appear to be TIE fighter helmets, with an officer or two among them. Get your sniper rifles ready. Soldiers of Fortune has done a Black Hawk Down pack with a squad of infantry and an MH-6 helicopter. It's Dread Elves for Dragon's Lake's December pack with an Oracle, Crossbowman and a Bannerman, and Spearman on a chariot. New Pokemon models from Model Monster so far in December: Inkay, Carablast, Wishy-Washy, and 2 different poses of Mime Jr. Six models from Legend Builds this month: 3 Erosian Longspears and 3 Erosian City Guard. Here are some assorted bounty hunter types that Velrock has sculpted since last month. Also, a full squadron of Tempest Marines. After literally surviving Nurgle's plague, 3D Hexes has rebounded in time to make us some catacombs. That must have been fun. Void Realm Minis made monsters through collaboration with their patrons this month. There's Mulugoth, Corpse Grinder of the Void, Tiakat, Jailmon, King of the Ice Golems, as well as Mulu Larvae and Eldritch Totems. Colossal Miniatures has an army of skeletons in December's release. They've also got Mr. T, Mr. Weiss, Leo, Misha, and Mikey. That is Modern Survivors Series 5. From Battle Yak Miniatures, the Lords of Winter Vault, with Father Winter Vault, Banedeer, a bunch of creepy little elves, and as usual, only one female sculpt that was a little too naughty to be shown here. Here are a couple of nicely detailed tanks from Space Legats. The first, a Sunburn launcher, the second, a Viking tank with 4 different gun types. It's mostly creepy Christmas themes coming from role-playing miniatures this month. The Ent looks pretty friendly though. Here is the Armada Cruiser I mentioned last month from Studio DR, as well as new riders for these War Beetles from a previous month's release. Several December dwarves from Crosslances, here to fight off the mean-looking orcs that follow. From Nikki's Hatchery this month, we have Taraka, the orc thing, the Komonase Queen, the vicious Vagrams of Vagaradur, and Zarog Bloodtusk. Here are some Christmas-themed miniatures from Dragon Workshop for December. Also, more accessories and renders of the Death House they've been working on. The Black Orc Army has been released by Kyoshu Neko Miniatures this month, with warriors, riders, a command group, and 2 war bosses, one of them mounted. Here are some Imperial soldiers from Big Mr. Tong, as well as some characters in power armor. Ryleth, the half-ogre from Cursed Forge Miniatures this month, also an Abominable Yeti and an Axebeak, as well as a Frost Giant coming later in the month. Sable Badger is doing an advent, 24 days of content. Here are the first 14 days, mostly smaller stuff like scatter terrain, useful for both sci-fi and fantasy. Here is the finished version of last month's rewards from Outrageous Creations. For December, they're working on nuns of a slightly more violent order. Here's all the Chibis from Dice Heads this month. Apparently, they all tie into a one-shot they have written as well. These creepy creatures from Gloomy Kid Mini's December release have names like Gith, Gaj, and Bozrog. I'll let you figure out which is which. From Peculiar Companions, we are joined by Imperial Arquebusiers, Imperial Crossbowmen, and Zweihanders, Imperial Greatswords. Two Valkyries on chariots from Orc King, as well as Northmen and Harpies to scare away your pleasant dreams. Four more pop culture busts from Rober Roland, like normal. Here are some new models from Dark Foundry's Technops and Tidehunters lines, Technodonates and Blessed Ones. Who will you run into in The Dark Alley by Crippled God Foundry? It could be all sorts of bagger or thief or street urchin to steal your money. Sometimes, though, it's Bebop and Rocksteady. Here is Onmyoji's December release, with some nice dwarves and children and elves enjoying the holidays, with some more sinister figures near the end. All sorts of visceral horror from Print and Paint Miniatures this month, with a couple of stunned onlookers in the form of busts, and one true believer. From Black Remnant this month, we have Darth Krayt from Legends, Theron Shan and Cam Val from The Old Republic, Aura Singh from Episode 1, Mick from Scar Squad, and others. In December's release from Warplock Miniatures, you get Ogre Lords Part 2, modular ogres with axes and maces, some riding great thunder beasts. Here is Detective Judy and the aboliths and edolisks she is investigating, from the end of last month by Bombshell Miniatures, one superhero so far this month, Kestrel, whose voice can create ultrasonic vibrations strong enough to do some damage. Last Sword Miniatures has a Temple Guard hero, half-elf hired sword, some scatter terrain, and a stomping giant eating a man, Also a bunch of birdmen. Daybreak Miniatures December release is Dwarves of the Dark Deep. 8 richly detailed dwarves to defend your treasures from those pesky unwanted adventurer types. It's Elemental Month from RG Sculpt. There are Earth, Fire, Ice, Blood, Wood, and Wind elementals, possibly with more to come, like maybe a big Magma elemental? Work has completed on Aether Studios' Spaceships 3 tile set. Their Patreon post contains 205 images. Here are just a few of them. Check them out if you need to build a spaceship. Savage Gnolls Big and Small from Goonmaster Games this month. From Boss Gnolls all the way down to little pups. Zanat, the Abandoned World ship from Sacras Mundus in December. This set contains everything you need to populate your Eldar battlefield, as well as some bases to finish it off. Here are some Hyena Men, or Gnolls, from Bright Minis this month, as well as a Krampus and a Guardsman for him to sneak past if he wants to punish those children. Albino Raven Minis seems to have had an accident in their lab, resulting in some sort of living dead situation. Not to worry though, they have the firepower to deal with it. Here is everything released by Capsule Chibi in the month of November. So far, December's releases have names like Armored Bear and Meowsketeer. Lord Commander Idolus of the 3rd Legion, and Locust Snub Fighters by That Evil One. Zarly Factory has 2 sets of Battle Builder tech for you this month, a set of Xenos buildings, and a set of barricades and barrels. Here are the last of November's Modular Rangers set from Lion Tower Miniatures. December and January they will be focusing on Knightly Orders and Kingsguard, though I haven't seen any images yet. Here are 20 sculpts Schlossbauer has done since last video. He gives them away for free, but has backer-only versions as well, so this one is definitely worth checking out. Sorry I don't know more about Ninja Turtles lore, but this month from Prey Collection Studios we have The Last Ronin, Toka, and a couple of other characters to add to their growing lineup. And this is what Titan Troll has released so far this month, with their advent calendar only just beginning. Some of them are older models, sometimes revamped, but there sure are a lot of them. In Chapter 5 from The Printing Goes Ever On, the elves assemble, but are also assembled. This month, they've released an interactive modular mini customizer, so you can get exactly the elves you want. A Christmas Krampus from Great Grimoire. A Christmas Krampus from Great Grimoire before their usual themed release this month. The Tales of the Yagamoors, Kikamura with The Saddest Eyes in the World, and Koshei, Deathless Wizard in the Woods, with Baba Yaga yet to come. Here is the rest of November's release from Epics and Stuff's miniatures, a Christmas Goblin, Ogre, and Pole Reaver, as well as a couple of Turtles so far this month, a Blade Master and a Bard. a Goblin Barmaid in many forms from Twin Goddess Miniatures this month, as well as a Fairy Princess and a Goblin Artificer. Seb Miniatures brings us a bunch of spike-helmed Mandalorians, a couple without or with regular helms, a couple Dathomirians, and yes, that is Obi-Wan in Mando armor, followed by a Rancor beast. Good haul. This is Rebecca, the Wild Huntress, and Shen, her hyena, as well as Iria, the Barbarian, and Zerk, the Bugbear Chief, and a couple of his Bugbear buddies by Bite the Bullet, as well as some scatter terrain. Joining the collection from Yasashi Kyojin Studios this month is a Hag of the Anise, a Wendigo, and this is a work in progress for a Grave Warden. Yasashi gives his models away for free as well. Ashigaru Hanzaki from Cobra Mode this month, men and women ready to defend their farming villages when necessary. Also, Axinus, a spy, Gyakubo, a swordsman, and a giant pack snail, for when speed isn't the most important factor. Two work-in-progress images from Manuel Boria. First, a Blight Knight, followed by a Blood Knight. The Dark Gods will be pleased. Forest Dragon is rounding out their vampire army with a couple of new characters and units. A Vampire Lord atop a Winged Horror, a Vampire with a Chalice of Blood, and a Necromancer for characters, with Vengeful Spirits and Skeleton Cavalry for units. As usual, a lot of orcs has been pouring out of Gearguts' mech shop. They're gonna attract the attention of the Death Watch if they're not careful. A blacksmith, a butcher, and a dark wizard from STL Miniatures, each set coming with their own tools of the trade and some suitable scatter terrain to populate their places of work. Punga Miniatures is new to this show. This month, they're offering a Kickstarter they released last year, the Pirates, a fantasy football team with captain, runners, linemen, throwers, and an ogre. Papsicles is really pulling out the stops with this great cyberpunk release, with references to all your favorite IPs. They've also continued their Whispers of Frozen Tundra line with a Nomad Ranger and Gnome Squidlings. After watching videos by Shadiversity, Dark Realms is remodeling this mountain keep from July to be a little more realistic. They are also continuing work on Arkenfell, which I showed you back in my September video. Here's a look at the finished version of Ritual Casting's Eva that I could only show you a preview of last month. This month I have previews for Lady Cassandra, and she looks incredible so far. I can't wait to show you the finished work next month. Lots of creepy mushroom monsters for you to print from Print Your Monsters this month, with some warriors, nightmares, and some grotto scenery you're not going to want to get lost in. Modular Gothic ruins from Gamescape 3D, and modular peasant homes as well, big enough for the filthy wretches to bring their livestock inside with them. It's Wizards and Goblins from White Werewolf Tavern this month, Zondar Valis, Archmage and Director of the Academy of Magic, and Velia Ara, a young sorcerer, both in heroic models and busts. Then we have 4 friendly-looking, bookish little goblins. Masterwork Tools is releasing more free content as usual. This month, a modular bandit watchtower. Also, a trapdoor in cut stone tiles, and square dungeon stone windows. A warband of fearless Norseman riders from Asgard Rising this month, though I haven't seen images yet. For terrain, they've made a whole bunch of conifers, some young and others modular. Shire Jones, the halfling archaeologist, from 1 gold piece this month, as well as their first female halfling with not 1, but 2 crossbows. Some men-at-arms from Monstrous Encounters this month, as well as Stargate-inspired models, with more yet to come. Victus Miniatures is doing a Bandits ambush theme for December. Here are 3 bandits that could be coming to a tabletop near you, and a bit of scatter terrain to make the encounters a little more immersive. Raven Twin has an interesting lizard folk football team happening, with skinks, saurians, and chameleons for players, as well as non-football related raptor riders of several stripes and more chameleon folk. There are gargoyles in Duncan Shadow's December release, as well as some big angry titans, and some tiny little Moosel Knights whom I hope don't have to face off against those titans. The Warriors of the Lady are an order of fantasy female knights ready to fight for their cause on square or round bases. Their leader, Damsel of the Lady, comes mounted and on foot. Great to see a really well done set of female fantasy models. The Dragon's Rest is back with a couple new tiles in their ongoing dock set, but they've also released this working 3D printed orrery. Printed Obsession presents an array of different, mostly creepy elemental creatures. There's an ice stag, fire bear, and stone pangolin, a poison snail with a skull shell, and the 2 monstrosities that are the Maelstrom Queen and the Death Sphinx. Welcome to the Cult of the Flesh from Bestiarum Miniatures. Wretched husks of life offering sacrifice to bring rise to great abominations. If only there were some sort of adventuring party that could put an end to such foul malignance. Royal Guard Volume 2, Dwarves and Clerics and Heroes of all sorts, and some nice foes for them to protect against, by RN Estudio this month. I particularly like the Dragon with the Sword. Gomek does some pretty good fantasy and sci-fi models, but most of his female sculpts are a little too risque to show here. Tarot is the theme of Part 1 from Clay Cyanide Miniatures' December release. 15 tarot-inspired models with an additional 10 models on the way with the theme Dark Christmas. Epic Miniatures is releasing an epic number of miniatures like normal. There are pharaohs and mummies, slimy tentacled things, dragons and serpent folk with lizard mounts, and spiders and driders, and I think I've only covered half the new content. Pirates, fish folk, and porpoise people. The Dragon Trapper's Lodge is doing a seafaring set this month. Monsters include the Coral Shambler and a giant scuttle stinger. Rocket Pig Games is back with their usual array of crazy monsters. There's a were polar bear, a dire woolly mammoth, and a great frost demon, to name a few. As usual, they've included 5th edition datasheets for a couple of the bigger ones. One Page Rules is working on robots and saurians this month. The only public image I was able to find was concept art of the robots, though. The Nakamura Strike Team from Unit 9 this month is on a kill mission. Can the color-coded black site agents protect the mark? Here are the celestial beasts I mentioned last month from Mia K, an Angel of Radiance, a Fairy Dragon, and a Coatl. And wow, do they look gorgeous. This month, patrons are voting on winter-themed models. Mia also released a set from an old Kickstarter campaign to patrons as well, an aquatic collection. In the black of the void, no one can hear you scream. With joy over this awesome set of modular Gothic Void Troopers from Anvil Digital Forge, with plenty of options for many different scenarios, including leaders and a Void Ogre. Beware the Bolthars in Lost Kingdom's December release, as well as some nasty looking berserkers and Magmoran slavers and golems, and they're shown to scale in the last image, so some of them are pretty large. All hail Lord of the Prince for their exquisite models of Bahamut and 5-headed Tiamat, the dragon gods, as well as these 5 little acolyte minions. This is a really great set. Cyberberserkers and more Valor Corps from the Maker's Cult this month, some Templars, and a Heretic Master of War as well. There's also a Grimdark Santa, some heavy metal Christmas trees, and a less grimdark Christmas set of Scatter Terrain. The Christmas stuff is all free. Inferno is the theme for Mini Monster Mayhem's December release, with a Phoenix, an Inferno Dragon, male and female fire giants, fire oracles, lingering lava horrors, and even good old possessed flaming skulls. Cast and Play has stopped doing public Patreon posts with their monthly content, but I managed to track down these 2 images on Twitter, and I'm glad I did. It looks like a pretty large set, with all the usuals: terrain, bases, tileable floors and walls, and a nice selection of playable minis and monsters, all with this month's theme of the sewers of Thamaria. This month, Cyberforge Miniatures is doing a double release, with more cyberpunk characters for Titan City, and a small starship with characters to crew it, as well as some Melter Marines and a mech to keep them company. A couple of months ago, Heroes Infinite released an army of angels. This month, it is the host of the Demonicus, including the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, 5 Harbingers of Doom, Haradans, Tormentors, and finally, Lucifer himself, King of the Demonicus. From Archvillain Games has come An Unholy Night, featuring Yule Trolls, Goblins, some ratting jackalopes, Golems, Goatmen, and a great big Krampus and Sleigh diorama. And like every month, they're releasing an accompanying 5th edition module to quick start your tabletop adventures. MZ4250, as always, is working his way through the monster manual, as well as sculpting patron requests. This month, there's a dragon turtle, a dryad, a kuatoa, and much more. And as usual, he gives them away for free, so give him your support. Sylvan Knights is Artisan Guild's theme for this month. There are modular knights, stag riders, a couple of characters, as well as a forest primordial and another disguised as terrain. You could play 1001 Adventures with Titanforge's December release. Arabian Nights sees a sandstorm come to life among all these wonderful Arabian-themed minis, and as usual, it comes with appropriate terrain and bases, as well as 3 new Titans of Adventure. Alright, now it's time for the lightning round. Here are an additional 30 3D printing Patreon campaigns. Clay Demon Miniatures. Dawn Whitaker. Lost World Miniatures. Mimics and Miniatures. Hell-Forged Miniatures. Cert Studio. Edge Miniatures. Red Dawn 3D Miniatures. Omega Models. Kraken's Vault. Caballero Miniatures. Maps and Monsters. Beast Miniatures. Sark's Foundry. Print, Paint, and Play. Jeremy Smith. Zombie Smith. Mecha Miniatures. Tessellated Miniatures. Homunculus Creations. Guardian's Destiny. Two Moronic Miniatures. Blended Miniatures. The Nalon Realm. Armored Studio. Yo Miniatures. Anvil Croissant. Fable Table. Your Neighbor Knight. Horde Miniatures. JG Sculpts. That's it for this week. Which was your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.